I originally started looping because I was about to do my first tour and I wanted to play a solo show because I couldn't afford to bring band members with me really, but as primarily a drummer, I didn't really, I don't know, I was trying to figure out a way to incorporate live drums and singing into my set in a way that I could do it kind of alone on stage still. And since I also happen to play some keys and bass and guitar, I kind of, started this looping approach. I had a friend that kind of knew a lot about Ableton, knew about looping in that software, and so he kind of introduced me to that world. And then I guess, that's kind of how I got into the looping. And then from there, I've just kind of continued doing it. You know, I've gotten deeper and deeper into it and kind of kept exploring how far you could take it. The most essential parts of my setup are the laptop, the interfaces, and the mic, and then of course the instruments too. I guess in the past, you know, I've kind of swapped out instruments. I always love having drums with me, but I wasn't always like live looping the drums, for instance. I used to just loop electronic drums because it's a little bit easier kind of doing everything DI into the interfaces, but with this tour in particular, I've reincorporated looping the live drums, and have kind of been working with the tech to get that to sound as best as it can in the live setting. No, in terms of the looping, it's always stayed the same. Since I started, I've always been looping in Ableton and doing like the IAC MIDI driver kind of like prearranged looping setup. And so everything that I'm doing is on a click track, and I have each loop and each song completely prearranged. Like I know which parts I'm gonna play, I know when it's gonna happen. I'm not like on stage, I'm only pressing play and then kind of doing the looping from there. I'm not triggering the loops, I'm not stopping the loops at all. And then in terms of instrumentation, I can just kind of, you know, take different instruments in, take them out. So like currently my setup doesn't have any electronic drums, and I guess the reason for that is that I, as a drummer, just like love playing live drums and love the sound of that and kind of the energy of it. And so that was kind of the decision there. In terms of looping, the actual looping part is always the same. Starting here, I'm running everything through my laptop on stage with my two Apollo APs here. I am using Ableton to do live looping. I have the push here, and then running everything through console. I monitor my drums only through console for the zero latency purposes, and then loop them out. Kind of going over here, I'm using the Vox Continental for keys, and then I also have this little Roland. This is kind of like the newest addition to my setup here. It's the Roland VT4. I'm using that for like vocoding, a couple of like octave effects and stuff like that. Then moving over here, I'm using a Fender Mustang bass, Fender Strat here. I just recently switched to a wireless pack, the Shure, I'm not sure what it is, it's the Shure ULXD1. I also, backing up, forgot to mention this is my other newest addition, is the wireless Shure mic. This is the ULXD2. And then hopping over here on the other side of the stage, I have my drum kit set up, which is my vintage Pearl kit, these three pieces. This is a newer snare from Pearl. It's the part of the President series. It's the Deluxe, I think, snare. There's a logo on here somewhere. But yeah, this is this Pearl snare also. And then I'm using all Paiste cymbals. This is Dark Energy, Dark Energy. This is the Big Beat 22-inch ride. And I also have just started using some sim pads on the hi-hat to kind of damper the sound a little bit there. I have a couple like moon gels on here and stuff. And then as far as miking goes, like since I'm doing live looping with the drum set, I have all these mics going straight into that box that I showed you guys earlier. And this is just like the Audix drum mic setup. So we're using 5 mics during the show right now. So we have the kick mic, we're doing like an under snare mic, a top snare mic, and the 2 overheads. And then the last piece of gear I want to show you guys is the QSC speaker right here at the front of the stage. And this is also kind of a new addition. The point of this is to kind of balance the sound of like when I loop the drums to kind of compensate for the acoustic sound of the drums that's being lost when it loops back. So this turns on like it's not being used while I'm playing live, and then when I'm looping back, it's coming out of the speaker. And that's pretty much that's like the quick rundown of my whole stage setup. As always, I'm playing with my Elise Trouw Vader custom drumsticks, 7As. Working with Sweetwater on the see-through video was an experience unlike any other that I've had. Most of the times when I've shot live looping videos, it's taken place in a studio, whether it's my studio or someone else's studio, and this was, I guess, yeah, the first live looping video that I've shot on a set and kind of had like a, specific visual component with. And also, in terms of the size of the crew, that's the biggest like loop video, most number of people that I've had involved with one of those, some of the videos I've shot, it's just like me in my studio with one camera and I kind of just place it and then I go, do the song. But this was different in the sense that there were just more people that kind of specialized in different roles. So I feel like it came together in a way that was just, it felt very strong in every area to me. Leading up to the shoot, we were kind of like back and forth on email about different ideas, and I think like early on I kind of was like, oh, it'd be cool to have everything on the set be one color and then kind of like have different monochromatic lights, and then we went back and forth a bit, and I feel like, yeah, I mean, ultimately like I kind of had that little spark of an idea, and then the crew at Sweetwater kind of took that and ran with it and like really made it something where I felt like I showed up and I was like, whoa, this is like even better than what I was imagining. And like I feel like I was really able to focus on the, I focus on the song, I focus on the performance, and then the visual part of it was so, just felt so strong, and like I didn't even really have to be that involved in that part of it in the way that I normally am. And so it was a cool experience for me to really, I felt like I could really focus on my performance in that situation. Typically, like when I'm doing the looping videos, I'm kind of in my studio. It's like just a standing mic, and I'm kind of never looking at the camera. And I think part of that's always been I've been a bit like nervous or a bit shy about things. But I think it definitely like pushed me out of my comfort zone, and I really liked how it looked ultimately. Like when I watched it back, I'm like, oh, that's like a cool look. And I've started incorporating that kind of more into other videos that I've shot as well. Yeah, I guess a lot of the gear that we used in that video were instruments that I've used before, other than the stands that we used for the bass and the guitar. I hadn't used any like that before, and they really worked well in that video. And then also there was like the hi-hat was like a Paiste hat, and I normally use a 14-inch, I think, and this one was a 13-inch. And I've still, since the shoot, like been like wanting to get my hands on one of those. With my live show, my hope is that the audience, with each song, at least the way I look at it, with each song that I release, I kind of hope that it has its own little life. And so I guess as a collection, my songs can be pretty different sounding genre-wise, but I like to kind of think of each one as its own little thing and mood. And so, I really like to hear from the audience, after the show. I'm always at the merch booth and I talk to people, and it's cool when people come up to me and everyone will be like, oh, that one was my favorite, and someone else will say that one was my favorite. So it's cool. I feel like each song will kind of connect to different people in different ways, and so I guess that's my hope for the live show.